And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, coming to you live every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific Time. I'm Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 27-year talk radio host in Los Angeles and beyond. And I come to you every week, right from, now from my home in LA. This show is about humanity. It's about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about being your best you and inspiring others to do the same in this big, beautiful world. And it may be my show, my friends, but it's always your experience. My guest today is a lovely, talented, and dear friend. She is a wonderful actress, producer, writer, and is best known probably for her role as Pepper on the American Horror Story series. Literally, she has won the hearts and souls and admiration of fans worldwide. She is the wonderful Naomi Grossman. Now, this is my friend Naomi. This is what I think of when I think of Naomi. This is what y'all see. But what most people think of when they think of Naomi is this, the beloved Pepper. And what a transition. I'm going to show you both together before we bring her in. How about this? That's the difference right there. Everybody, please welcome Naomi to the show. It's wonderful to have you here, my friend. Thank you for being on my brand new show at the very beginning. Aren't you brave?
How exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. And you've been on the show many, many times in its radio incarnation, but I always wanted to turn it into sort of a TV talk show. And now here it is as sort of a TV talk show. So let's talk a little bit about you. I always make everything spiritual, and you know that's just me because you're used to me. But what do you think? Where do you think it comes from? Why is it that some actors, and you certainly are one of these, my friends, are almost like shapeshifters? Some actors are wonderful at telling a story and being themselves, right? In every role, they may have a different name, but they basically look like themselves. They talk like themselves. Sometimes their characters are even very much like they are. But then some actors, it's almost like magic, right? You literally step out and go away and the character steps in. And to me, that is the true definition of acting. So where do you think that comes from? Where is the ability to do that? And is it kind of a spiritual thing for you?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's, well, yeah, it's what I love. And, it's my passion. So, God is love. God is acting.
Right.
God is, it's my love.
Exactly.
And so, yes,
right. Yeah. Theater is church. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I would say, I think it depends on your intention. Like and I should probably see a therapist about this, but I've always wanted to be someone else. Like meaning, don't get me wrong. I love myself. Like I won't even get a tattoo. You know what I mean? Like you don't put bumper stickers on a Lamborghini. Like you don't decimate this. But I've
do not desecrate Naomi.
That's right. Desecrate. Yes, thank you. My vocabulary is like gone with the pandemic.
No, it's great.
Like it's
okay.
So yeah. I knew words back in 2019.
Right.
But here we
are.
Now
we just know emojis.
Yeah. Right. Season 3, we're just like like monosyllabic grunters.
Exactly. Where is the emoji for desecrate? Let's make one.
Right. But I think I've always, when I say wanted to be someone else, I mean, yeah, I've always sort of not just prided myself, because this is even before I was who I have become, but I've always wanted to be an actor who was truly someone else, like a completely different character. And so that's really what I always sort of set out to do. And thankfully, that's what I've done. But I know what you mean about those actors who, no matter what, like, I mean, Adam Sandler, for example, he's done amazing things, and he actually is a great actor. But he's Jack, he's Jill, he's the gemstone, whatever. He's still Adam Sandler, like, and I don't know if that's just we've seen him sing the Hanukkah song so many times that we can't like get it out our head. Whereas we never knew me as anything else. So who is this person? Like, I'm just this thing, piece of clay that they can just make me into whatever. Like, I hadn't established a shape. But I think, I don't know. I don't want to be that person. Like, whenever I'm have an audition or something, I'm always like, well, how can I make this not me? Like, how can I find, like, who is this person? Because I don't want to be Naomi. If I wanted to do reality TV, I suppose I could, but I don't.
Right.
And I always see, again, nothing against them, but like Robert De Niro, for example, like, I would love to see him do something other than the New York mafioso grandpa. That's kind of, and a part of it's casting. Like, those people making those mafia movies, they immediately go to him. But like, okay,
no, I'm with you.
That. So
I liked him the best. Right, for me, Robert De Niro the best when he gained all that weight to be in Raging Bull, or when he changed himself to be the devil in Angel Heart, like that. That was amazing. But I think a lot of it also is that you have to fight to not play yourself, because, the Hollywood just wants you to keep doing this. Just be this adorable person that we know and love forever. It's an interesting thing. So I started.
That's interesting too, because like, I don't know. I like that my hair, for example, is like constantly a work in progress. But, when I had the little pixie, like we saw in those photos that you showed, it reminds me,
very cute.
Need new headshots. But, I was getting like, mediator, boss, lawyer, corporate tycoon, and now that I'm this, I'm like, I'm maybe on meth, possibly, insane. Like, I'm, and it's it's just hair. It's hair. And so, it's weird that I'm with this hair, I'm being typed as sort of this junky, like, lunatic. And guess what? I'm not. Like, I'm also not this boss bitch, you know what I mean? Well, actually, I am. But I've never worked in an office.
Only in the theater.
So exactly.
Right.
It's just
but I think that.
How the world has decided we are this thing, but we're not actually.
Right. And don't you think that's an analogy, Naomi, for a bigger thing, that we do that in life? We look at a person and we judge. We don't think about what's inside. How smart could they be? How funny could they be? How spiritual are they? How together are they? We just look and we judge. And it's a terrible thing that we do, but it's something that we do. And I think that the business is just, we give the entertainment business a really hard rap. And I've, like you, have worked in the business my whole life. But the business oftentimes is just following the trends of people, right? And that's what people say, like sometimes, like Lifetime is a great example, right? Lifetime television for women, but like every story is about rape. But it has an audience. Women want to see that, or they wouldn't keep making the stories again and again, right? Women get kidnapped, abused, raped. They marry a psychopath. They get in a cult. But we love these stories, or they wouldn't keep making them. So you can't always blame Hollywood. Hollywood is a mirror of what humanity wants, and humanity judges people by how they look. And that is something that I always say that as far as species go, that we're like special toddlers. We haven't been around that long as compared to like, the alligator and the shark. Hopefully, as we grow, we'll grow out of that. But for now, that's what we do. So when somebody is a true character actor and shapeshifts, people don't quite know what to do with them. So I was like you when I was an actor. I was always a character actor. For me, it was because for my age group, if you look like me, you didn't work unless you were buried in some kind of stuff. Now life is different, but we're talking like in the 80s and 90s. So when I was in between working, I created this Sheena Metal character and did this local TV show where I wore a blonde wig and I had fake teeth and I wore a rock and roll outfit and a Monsters of Rock t-shirt. And people loved it. And I loved it because people didn't know who I was. I could go to the grocery store. Once I was in the store, I heard two women talking about me in front of me. I loved it. It was like an actor's dream. But then I realized that people wanted that. And I would show up as me and people would be like, oh. And I would try to use my real name and people would be like, where's Sheena? So I took the name and kept it because people just couldn't get it, that it was a part they wanted her. And it wasn't until 15 years after doing the show 10 years after doing the show that I dropped the costume. I would go to work every day on the radio and I'd wear that costume in case somebody wanted to take pictures. So I learned that people like what they like. And then they want you to be that thing. And there are probably even people that look at you and go, but she's not Pepper. Where's Pepper? As if Pepper's going to come over and have high tea with them.
Oh, it's happened. I mean, no, she doesn't go for high tea.
Yeah.
But yes,
she should though. I would like her to come to high tea.
I remember like just on the set, the way what you're talking about, people treating me differently as Pepper, like,
yes,
the crew members would jokingly be like, pull my finger. And I'm like, would you ask Jessica Lange to pull your finger? You know what I mean? Like, I'm an actual adult, like with a degree from Northwestern. Like, what are you like?
Right.
And then when spoiler alert, it's like 10 years old, so it's fine. But
yeah, it's okay.
When Pepper was abducted and came back all smart, and all of a sudden I wasn't this like hilarious, playful person on set because I had dialogue to do. Everyone's like, you were fun before. What happened? I'm like, hello, I'm not like your monkey, like for entertainment purposes. Like, I'm not like this like kids clown at the party. Like I'm, this is, it was interesting. I was able to experience exactly what you're talking about, especially on Freak Show. I would see, for example, little Jyoti, the 1.5 foot tall woman, who would say, I'm not a baby. But it's so hard when you look at her, you can't help it. You talk like, like, and it's like, oh my God, don't do that. Like she's 25 years old. Like,
right. Well, it's like with your cat, right? Your cat's like 10, which means like 50 in human years.
Right.
Like, did a baby, because it's so cute and you can't stop. No, it is hard. I had a friend once who was a dwarf and a porn star, a very successful porn star. And, had been an actor, had gone to an acting, went to high school in theater very close to where I did. And her whole thing was like, why? Don't pick me up. She's like, I want to wear a shirt that just says, don't pick me up. People see me and they immediately want to pick me up. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm 30. Dude, I'm not 2 months old. Don't pick me up. But people see little people and they want to pick them up. Right. Oh. And it's not okay. It's the same way, right? The whole thing that's going on right now with Black Lives Matter, where white women want to touch Black women's hair. And it's very offensive to Black women. And I understand that. But I do want to say to all my women of color that are watching, it's because white women's hair is boring and it sucks. And I think white women are fascinated with a kind of hair they can't have. Like, wow, that's something. But still, you can't just walk up to people and, do you know what I mean? I mean, we don't walk up to guys and go, oh, I can tell you have a big penis. Like, it's not okay. But it's that aesthetic oriented thing that people do, right? That we judge from what we see. And And I would imagine that it's difficult when everybody's like, oh, why didn't Pepper come? And I just want to have high tea with
Yeah.
Pepper because I just want to watch her eat the little sandwiches because she's so darling. But it is a thing in acting, right? That you get stuck in a character. I know I've interviewed a lot of my friends who were on shows in the 60s and 70s and 80s that were very successful. And at that time, I think I was told this by an old agent of Gary Coleman's, that when he finished Different Strokes, as popular as it was, they didn't want him to work for a year because they want you to forget the people. They don't want people to think of you as that character. They want to like clean the palate, and then you come back. Like when you start sniffing essential oils, and after a while they all smell the same. But that's hard for an actor that just wants to get out there and work again. And luckily now, we have grown beyond that, right? Where we're not telling people from popular TV shows, don't work for a year because people can't remember that other character. Now there's so many shows and so many things out there that people have more of a expansive palette for what they can take in and handle. But people do get sucked in, right, to a character, and they don't know how to get past it.
Well, I see it both ways. I had a manager who's clearly no longer my manager, but she was really kind of like, well, I don't know how to sell you. Like, you're not, what else can you do? And I'm like, what can't I do? Like, I literally can do anything. Like, I can do that, but I also can do this. I mean, and all the shades of gray in between. So,
right.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I speak Spanish, and it's, I've been in situations, for example, if I valet my car and I hand the keys to the valet guy and I say in perfect, like impeccable Spanish, aquí están las llaves, like, here's my keys. And they look at me like so confused because they're like, I just understood that. Like, why did I understand this white lady? You know what I mean? Like, just like
exactly. Yes.
And I've actually had, because they listen with their eyes, and their eyes are saying, I don't understand this lady, but their ears are saying, I totally got that. And I've had auditions too, where I did voiceover, where it's been in Spanish, and I have to go for the callback, and I show up, and I'm here to read for Patricia, and they hand me the Caucasian role, and I say, no, I'm here for Patricia. And they are like so confused. And like, literally, they're like, I've just lost the role right there because I don't look like whatever they think Patricia is supposed to look like. And that's really, it's frustrating. It's frustrating coaching my friends that do look Latino how to speak Spanish, and I'm like, oh my God, like,
right. But the truth is, I mean, you could be, there are blonde people in Mexico. You could be Cuban. Of course. You could be Spanish from Spain and be lighter. Lighter complexion than you. So it's not even your look. It's they look at your name and they say this isn't a Latin name. Right. I mean, I'm as Irish as the day is long, and nobody ever thinks I am. They think I'm Italian, Native American, Spanish, Jewish, whatever I get. So, and we're learning from our ancestry, right? That you're not necessarily what you think you are. So hopefully, as the country becomes more mutts and we all start interbreeding together, as we have more and more, everybody's just going to become beige. And hopefully at that point, it's not going to be such a weird thing about your aesthetics and how you look. And it's just so kind of, I mean, the expression, the meme, right? We're spiritual beings having a human experience. I mean, we really are just kind of here in meat suits, biding our time for 100 years. Your outside really is nothing more than a shell. It doesn't matter. And the thing that's wonderful about acting, the thing I liked about doing character roles was I liked to feel what it was like to just be inside somebody else. Because I've just been innately fascinated by people my whole life. And I wanted to help tell stories through other people. I was sick of my own story. I wanted to tell somebody else's story and really go for it and look that way. And I'm not somebody that's ever had a lot of ego surrounding my looks. Like, oh, what if I'm ugly in a role and people think I'm ugly? Like, I want it the uglier the better. Bring it on. So that was what I love so much about it. But it's
Yeah.
hard now, right? It's hard to be a character actor when we're so worried now we're going to offend somebody if we do the wrong thing. Now it's everybody's kind of more playing themselves, and I hope acting goes back to more acting and less just everybody playing who they are.
Oh, believe me, I do too. Well, and that goes back to what you were saying. You know, I at once, and I don't like to talk about it much because it pisses me off, but I once had a personal appearance at a university that there were people actually protesting my appearance there because I was not actually microcephalic.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I never said so. Like, Google me before you sign a contract and you know, get me on a plane to fly to your school. Like, what did they actually expect Pepper to give a speech? Like, how's that gonna look? Like, what does that sound like? She's not exactly verbal, you know? And so that's just like, okay,
she can like, sing the Banana Fana Fofana song for like an hour.
Is that what they were?
Everyone can join
I literally was like, no. I billed to speak on the subject of inclusion. Like, this is not like, that's a inclusion. That's 3-syllable word. That's like 3 more than Peppers, you know? So anyway, the point is, I agree with you that, you know, we're going through a little, a kind of a slump in that it's real hard to be a character actor playing very far from yourself. That is highly discouraged right now. It's hard to be a comedian. Everything's, you know, taboo. Everything's offensive. I mean, even you know, I put out a TikTok a couple days ago that people are, I wouldn't say upset about, but they're confused because, you know, Pepper is a sexual being. It's like, first of all,
you're not Pepper.
Pepper's a character.
You weren't in the you weren't in the Pepper. It's not like you're dressed as Pepper and you have an OnlyFans page. I mean, it's not like,
although that would blow up.
Amazing.
If only I were. Oh man.
Right. But that's not undressing yourself with those little hands. The hands are my favorite. The fake hands are my favorite because I bet people thought when they first met you were going to come with these hands and that's what you're going to look like.
Sorry.
But you're right. And I don't think it's good. And not to get too political, but I think it inspires more racism and more division. And I've been fat my whole life and I've been bullied for fat. I've been dumped for being fat. I probably the meanest things you can imagine said to me. But when I saw that movie, was it Shallow Hal, right? Where Gwyneth Paltrow was very big. I was just glad there was somebody telling the story of what it's like to be big and how even if you meet a big guy, he doesn't like you because you're big. I didn't care it was Gwyneth Paltrow. I didn't care who it was. I just wanted it to be a story being told. And I think that you telling Pepper's story, how wonderful that this character who's microcephalic is now loved all over the world. The next time somebody encounters an actual microcephalic person, maybe they'll be more loving and gentle with them because they saw Pepper. And so I think that's what storytelling is. And to get so bitter because, well, how come they didn't use a big actress? Well, obviously, because if they used a big actress and she got skinny at the end, that didn't really make sense. So who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, they used who they used, right? And I just think, and I'm an actress who lost a ton of stuff because I was fat. Even in high school, when I wasn't that fat, I was still too fat to play leads. I was what they called the wrong kind of woman, which I don't know what that means. And frankly, now I don't care. But at 17, it was a lot of, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. No, I think if this is a slippery slope we're on right now, and we could very easily screw ourselves out of so much amazing work out there. You know what I mean? When you look about my left foot, you know, and like,
amazing.
I mean, how many, the Helen Keller, I mean, how many amazing performances would not have happened had we, you know, only cast people with that exact condition, etc. I mean, the good news is for me, you know, the role was such that they needed someone to, you know, that could play both before and after, you know, so in that regard, like they had their, you know, their reasons to cast someone who was not actually microcephalic. But I have a friend. He happens to be an amputee who is he's a wonderful actor. His name is John Larson, and he said to me, "Oh yes,
very good friend of mine too. I love him."
He was actually in Freak Show. In the Orphans episode, he appeared in that. In any case, he said specifically, Naomi, we just want to be considered for the role.
Yes.
It's not to say that you need to cast us in every role.
Right.
But may the right person for that role get it. And if the right person is, differently abled, then we just want to be seen. We want the opportunity.
Right.
But in this case, he's like, you were the right person for this part. So mazel tov, like this was yours. And that meant a lot, coming from him, especially, because I'm not trying to take anybody's part.
Right. Well, and I think that instead of getting so upset at Daniel Day-Lewis or John Hurt for being in The Elephant Man or Leonardo DiCaprio and What's Eating Gilbert Grape, I think what we should be more angry about is why we're not casting differently abled people to play regular characters. Like, here's the forensics girl that sits at the computer on Special Victims Unit. Why can't she be in a wheelchair? That kind of thing. That it needs to be that, I think we need to evolve past it being a thing. And I've seen this in the LGBTQI plus community too. How come I'm gay? I'm only cast as gay. I don't want that person to play gay because they're not gay. To which point I always say, well, you don't really know who's gay because it's all a spectrum and you don't really know gender and sexuality. But the bottom line is, what if we just evolved to a place where it didn't matter? Everybody just played everything and we were just okay with that. And that's where I hope that we're going.
Yes.
And that's what's so important about things like American Horror Story. Horror stories are important because sometimes the best way to tell stories that maybe people are not going to listen to if they're told in the real world or in a documentary, we will accept them if they're in horror, fantasy, sci-fi, right? Those are wonderful ways. And look at how Ryan Murphy has brought all these different kinds of characters to that show. And you've gotten to see a little bit of everything. Supernatural stuff, people who are different, people with different lifestyles and proclivities, and all told under this guise of a supernatural story or a horror story so that people can accept it and think, oh, okay, well, that's just a different kind of person. And that's okay. And I think that is such a beautiful thing because I think with horror, with supernatural stuff and with spiritual stuff and with horror, and that's been my genre since I was, born. There's a suspension of disbelief that has to happen to believe in something you can't prove anyhow. So while you're suspending that disbelief, your mind is a little more open to look at what's really in the world, right? And decide maybe Pepper, maybe a person could get abducted by aliens, and the aliens could implant into them superior intelligence and knowledge, and they could come back completely different. That's a what if. We don't know that can't happen. So because of that, you become more accepting all round, right? So for you, before American Horror Story, what was sort of your take on the supernatural and aliens? And I mean, was that something that was even on your radar before it became part of your work life?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I really even changed that much in that regard. Like I don't go out of my way to see sci-fi movies. It's just not a genre that I relate to very much. It's not to say I wouldn't have loved to have been in Dune. I just didn't want to watch it. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
But, I think as far as aliens specifically go, since you asked, I think I've always thought, well, there's no way that we can be so, narcissistic to think that we're the only ones here. Like, there's definitely life out there, in whatever form, whether it's like amoebas and mitochondria on Mars, or
sure.
you know, what, or maybe there are
still aliens, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what is life? There's definitely life out there. You know, I don't think they're green and in New Mexico. You know what I mean? I don't think.
Well, maybe it could be in New Mexico, but perhaps they're not green. They're probably
Maybe.
everywhere. Everywhere there's not a lot of people, they could be.
Yes. I just spent a month in New Mexico, so I don't know. I didn't see anything like that. I will say.
It's too bad.
Sorry.
I will tell you, I just did a paranormal documentary I was part of, and very honored to be in Joshua Tree in the summer. And, you know, when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, we're talking like in the middle of nowhere, like the last 10 miles was a dirt road and there were no lights. It was very, you know, it was a little Camp Crystal Lake. It was a lot. And I'm not a person who likes the middle of nowhere. I'm very much a city girl. So I don't, but I did it, you know, for art and for my spirituality. But I can tell you, you look up at that sky at night when there is no lights and nothing to detract you. And you see all the stars, you see all the shooting stars, you see the satellites, which fascinates me. Because we sit here every day, we don't think about the fact that there's like hundreds of satellites that orbit the Earth that pretty much make us have Wi-Fi and all the other stuff that we have that's wonderful. Cellular connection, cable, all that, you know, all that stuff comes from these satellites, and they're everywhere. But then you also see other stuff that is not that, and you see it a lot. And there's a lot of stuff moving around up there. I don't know why they're so interested in us, because I mean, really, if you could travel at the speed of light, would you want to go to Earth and have In-N-Out Burger? Maybe yes. Maybe that's why.
I was gonna say I haven't had lunch yet. Yes,
that's where she's going. In-N-Out Burger. I don't, but I do definitely think that there is stuff out there, and I have had experiences with spirits, and I do believe there is something after this. I certainly hope there's something after this. I think it's all very connected to us. And why I ask you that question in the very beginning about where character acting comes from is I've always felt like, for me, creativity is sort of a co-creation with me and spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it. Because there's a magic, right? When you do a play, you think, oh my God, the curtain goes up and you think, how in the world is everything going to go right for the next 2 hours? And it's literally like you blink and it's done. And it's sort of this beautiful bending of space and time, right? And everybody kind of does. It's the same way when you do a character, right? You're still in there, but the character's also in there, and you're both sort of piloting the character to be out there. It's very fascinating. And to me, it's a very spiritual thing, because it's so much more magical than the 3 dimensions. How you can do that, how you can literally, because, you know, when you're Pepper, it's not just like a Halloween costume, right? You're not the football player, somebody put in a dress for Halloween. I mean, you literally, Naomi, and I know you, and I've watched that character since I have known you. You are gone, like you're gone, and she's there. And then she goes away and you come back. And to me, that's as magical as, you know, Harry Potter making something disappear. I mean, it's true magic to step out of something for art. To me, it's no different than when a medium takes a spirit into them during a seance and they speak and move like the spirit. And I think you have an ability to let something in, and you move out of the way like a trance medium and let that character really come to life. And that's a special skill. And I think beyond Hollywood allowing people to do that, not all actors can do that, because they don't have in them that ability to move out of the way and let something else in, you know, as in the same way that a lot of people can sing, but they can't do that weird Mariah Carey dolphin thing where they go up super high, and you know what I mean? Not everybody can do everything.
I think of it almost as, I agree, the medium, that's a really good analogy. I think of it as like, almost like I put on a shade of, and all of a sudden when I'm in a character, I see the world through their lens, and everything looks different. You know, maybe it's rosy, maybe it's very dark, maybe it's, you know, but I everything is filtered through them, not me. And that, you know, because when I'm a character, I'm in touch with their needs or their
Yes.
relationships
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
which are totally different than my own. And so consequently, I see the world differently. I approach it differently. Like I'm always trying to be, like I said, as far away from myself as possible. So if I can add a different walk or a different gait or a different way of speaking, or and not just different way of speaking, like using a different register of my voice, or
Yes.
maybe an accent, or speaking staccato, or speaking really slowly. Like I'm those are yet more layers that will remove Naomi, because Naomi is just the vehicle. She's the like paper doll, right? And
Right.
we're
Yeah.
layering what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's that's the job. That's what I have set am set here to do. When
That's
people
your
are
service.
like,
Yeah.
you were a different person, I'm like, yeah, that's the role. Like that's acting. Like it's too bad that right now we've turned acting into like being beautiful on a camera. Like who cares? Like that's not the job as far as I'm concerned.
That's not what Shakespeare wanted.
No.
I mean, I love that old theater troupe ideology of there's just like 12 people in the troupe and everybody has to play everything, so better get a wig and go. Like, I love that. But I agree, that's your service. And what you described, the way that a character is put together, is very much how you describe my spiritual work when I transfer messages to people spiritually. Somebody said to me once, well, it's kind of weird that you were an actor and now you do this. And I always laugh. I always say it's like that Madonna tour where she wore her underwear on the outside. Like, I was always this, but now I'm this on the outside. Nothing's different. This was always here. But it did take me till I was in my 40s to realize that the same way that I got messages from spirit was the same way that acting happened. And a lot of psychics and mediums were performing artists first. And I believe it's because you just know how to tap into that channel. It doesn't feel much different for me. Relaying messages to someone that are coming through from spirit, to me, is the same as the way that a character just used to come to be. And the way that you described it, right? There are things that you put together in the palette of that character that are very conscious, right? You set out and think, well, I'm going to use an accent, or I might put this wig on. But then there are other things that just kind of happen, right? As you put it together, things just happen. It's like she takes on, or he takes on, or whatever you're playing, a life of their own. And suddenly things come into the character you never even thought about.
Yeah, yes. I'm just agreeing with everything because, yeah, yeah.
And that must be a little hard for you, right? Because you're a very, very smart, precise, intelligent lady. You like to put things together and have them be a certain way. So was it in the beginning for you, was it a little off-putting when that just happened? When things just developed in the character that you didn't have planned?
I mean, I'm an improviser at the end of, that's where I came from. So no, I'm used to making discoveries and yes-anding myself, and it made sense that they cast an improviser in this role, because let's face it, so much of it was nonverbal. So much of it was just being in it, being 100% present, and regardless of whether I had dialogue or not. So in that regard, no. I would say, to your point though before, I have no poker face. I never have. And so it's ironic, I think that's part of, again, what makes me a good actor is like, I just feel, and it just, I don't have to work at it. It just comes out my face. Like, what I'm thinking. And again, I have to make sure I, put on the pepper lens if it's pepper thinking, that's important, of course. But I was born to do this. Like, I have always
Yeah.
been this, listener, feeler, reactor, actor. I was not meant to win poker championships, period. Like, that was not ever in my, stars.
Right.
So
You and me both.
I'm glad I found this thing that enables me to do what I'm gonna naturally do anyway.
Sure.
So
Sure. Isn't it interesting how I see with you how that character got as much screen time as she got because of what you brought into her? I mean, that could have very easily been a background couple of lines character that we never saw again. And I believe it grew because of how much energy that you gave that character.
I think that's true. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have a friend, Kate Linder. Do you know her? Do you know Kate?
No.
Kate has been on The Young and the Restless for like 40 years. She basically was the first character cast on a soap opera to be comedic. And she was cast as this maid. And the first few episodes she was on, they didn't give her any dialogue. Like, she's just supposed to be in the background. So she would come up with ideas like a feather duster, or she'd bring a spoon, or come out of the kitchen with a spoon with something on it. And it literally took her from a character that was supposed to be a couple of episodes into a 40-year career on the show, because she thought about, as an improviser, right, what can I add in just to make it more special? And she wasn't thinking about how can I be here longer. She was just thinking about how can I make the character more authentic and more believable, so she's not just standing around in the background. And it wound up, people loved it, and it kept getting extended and extended. And I see that with you as well. I knew they would bring you back in season 4. I knew you would be back for that, because there's just something about what you did with that character that people wanted to see more and more and more, right? And the way it's touched people is so beautiful.
I did work as an extra. I mean, who hasn't, right? When you're in Hollywood,
sure, yeah, sure.
Tables, you drive the Red Bull car, you dance for money, bar mitzvah, like,
right.
It was just
you
one
wear
of
the
my
Oscar Mayer hot dog costume, sure,
totally, yes. But I was the worst extra ever, because I attract attention. That's just what I do. And that's, of course, the opposite of what you're supposed to do as an extra. You're supposed to just blend in. But I mean, I'll never forget them saying, like, yeah, you and the leopard, can you just, turn around? Oh, actually, no, that's even worse. Like, just go, like, go back to holding. Like, it was, right. In fact, it's on camera. I actually botched the last scene, or maybe I made it. The last scene of She's All That, if you remember that movie with Freddie Prinze Jr., it's a graduation scene, and he's behind. I'm behind him. He's actually naked, and I'm just kind of like looking at him from behind, and like you would, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm in a graduation, and there's a hot naked man in front of me. Of course, I'm gonna sneak a look. Well, it's in the movie, and but of course, they wanted us to just disappear in the background, but that's just not what I do. Yeah. So I have a feeling that Pepper probably was kind of definitely tertiary character, if not even more periphery than that. But yeah, I mean, maybe they didn't realize when they cast me that I'm going to take that attention down.
It's beautiful. Well, not even just the attention, but really playing into it, right? I mean, I'm not a person who likes attention. That's just me. Actors are different, right? Actors love attention, or they don't like attention. And I'm one that I don't like attention. I'm never trying to draw attention to me, but I am about the play's the thing, right? The ensemble of a scene, or on camera, like what's in that shot is the work of art, right? We want the perfect painting in every shot. Mm-hmm. And if somebody is doing that little bit extra, not showing off and it's just everybody's looking at them, but playing into it so their piece of the shot is more interesting. I was watching the show on Netflix, really good show. And there's this party scene. It's supposed to take place in the 1920s. and everybody's dressed up in costume, right? And I noticed some of the extras, they had like a blank expression on their face. Like it's supposed to be this big comet party, the comet's coming, and all these eccentric 1920s people. And some of them are just like dancing. And there was this one lady, man, and she was going for it. And I loved her. I couldn't take my eyes off her because she looked like somebody who would be that excited to be at this mansion for this party. And I think that when you're an actor, you always have to think about that, right? Like the shot, are you making the painting better? Now, if you're just trying to draw attention only to you, then you're not. You're making the painting off balance. But if you're a small character, right, there are no small parts, only small actors. If you're a small part, you have to be participating because you may know that you're not Jessica Lange and you're not Sarah Paulson, but in that snapshot, your character is as important as anybody else who's on the screen because we're not thinking about how much those other actors are working at that time. We're only thinking about what's happening in that minute. Right. And when you bring your all, like you did, and it's not just, here I go woo again on you, Naomi. It's not just what you're physically doing with your body and your voice. It's energetically, are you putting that character in the setting with the other characters? Or are you sort of standing apart like, well, my character's not that important, so I'm just going to stand here and do nothing and then hit craft service afterwards. Do you know what I mean? And you brought a lot to that character into every single scene. And I think that's why people fell in love with her. You didn't treat that role like it was a small role. You treated that role like every time you saw Pepper was like a special guest starring part. And people started looking for her because of that.
Well, I think just like I am the lead of the Naomi Grossman story, and you
yes,
are,
as well, you should be.
You are number one on the call sheet of your life, right?
Yes. Yes, I love that. Yes.
Yes, and Pepper in her world is she's the star of that show, you know?
Yes, exactly.
And she doesn't know that she's on a show called American Horror Story. You know what I mean?
No, right, exactly.
Right? So in her world, she's fully her person, the same way I'm fully my person, you're fully your person at all times. Like we don't go like, oh, this is Jessica's shot. You know what I mean? Like you're living it. And it's really up to the editors and directors to go, you know what? We need to make this a close-up so that it's just about Jessica for this moment, right? But we're not the editors. We're not the directors. So our job is to fully populate that picture like you were talking about.
Right.
And it's the editors and directors to curate what do we want to let the audience see at this moment.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That is the truth. And it's beautiful because like, even if there's a close-up of Jessica and there's this much of you in the background, well, to the eye, they're still looking at a scene from the mental hospital, from the asylum. Nobody's thinking like, oh, this is just supposed to be a shot about Jessica. How the editors decide to divvy up the camera that they use is just to be more aesthetically pleasing and to tell the story better for the viewer. But for the viewer, they're still watching the same scene in the same room in the asylum. They're not really thinking, oh, this is a close-up now, I shouldn't pay attention to anybody else. They're thinking, oh, where are all the other characters in this scene? I mean, I think that sometimes people forget what it's like to watch something and how people take art in and the energy of taking art in, which is that your brain fills stuff in, right? If you go see a play and there's just nothing but a coffee table and two chairs, but it's supposed to be people on the deck of the Titanic. If the theater is good, if the writing is good and the acting is good, the directing is good, you will fill the Titanic in with your mind. And when you leave, you will think that you saw something on the Titanic. The same way that if I worked in movie theaters, so a lot of times I'd show up as a kid. So a lot of times I'd show up for movies halfway through and then watch the beginning. Your brain switches it when you're done and you've watched the whole movie in order. It's like watching the movie Memento, right? Where it's told backwards. But after you've watched it, you remember it forward. So you have to remember that people that are watching you when you act, they're filling the whole story in, and they're even filling in things that didn't happen. They're putting Pepper into scenes where she wasn't shown, but maybe she was over here, or maybe she was back here and you couldn't see her, because that's what you do when you energetically take in a story and it becomes part of you, right?
Yeah, it's funny. People are always like, wait, you only did well, at this point I did do Apocalypse as well, and the most recent
Yes.
spinoff series. But people always think that I'm much more in the show than I actually am. And I think it's maybe what you're talking about. They've
Yes, it's exactly that. They filled you in the way that you fill in the deck of the Titanic. Sweetheart, you were wonderful.
I was there. Pepper.
Yes, Pepper's in the asylum. Where is she?
100%.
Where's Pepper?
Whether or not you actually saw her or not.
Right. Yeah. That should be an interactive video game.
Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic.
That would be great. Find Pepper in the asylum. Sweetheart, you are wonderful. Thank you for being here and sharing yourself with me at the very beginning of this new project. Please come back and let's do this again. And where can people find you online, sweetheart?
Naomi W. Grossman.
Do that. Please go find Naomi. And look, there it is up on the screen, like total magic. And also, is it the same on your social media? Are you Naomi W. Grossman?
Yeah. My
everywhere?
website is naomigrossman.net and my social media is Naomi W. Grossman.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic, my friends. Please go and find her because she is wonderful. Thank you, my friend, for being here. If you missed any of those links, you can always go to SheenaMetalExperience.com, my website, SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. I have a brand new website that is going to have all the information on all my shows. It's SheenaMetalKGRA.com. And it just basically has an archive link to all the past episodes so you can enjoy them. And it's wonderful to be here with my wonderful friend and my wonderful guest. Until I see you next time, my friends, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, always embrace unity, raise your vibration. We'll be back here next Friday at 3:00 Pacific time on nowhere else but KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. I'm Sheena Metal, and remember, it may be my show, but it's always your experience. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you.